welcome back to the Bruce and John cast, and today we're going to be talking about some very ethical things because we're just such ethical people.
I wouldn't say that, but sure.
You can do your best. All right, John, let's begin with utilitarianism. How would you personally define it?
Utilitarianism.
Utilitarianism
is a consequential ethical theory. In simple terms, it's kind of like it holds the best action that one maximizes overall happiness over the entire group. So it singles out one.
So it's just the best for the most, kind of. That's how I think of it, at least.
Yeah.
You kind of just gotta like get it down, because eventually, if you take any situation ever, you would eventually get it down to just how many people are happy and how much are they happy by. And that's that's one way of quantifying it, and putting it in numbers.
So let's say like 4 people are stranded on a boat, and one person is like they're like targeting this one person
to eat them,
right?
Yeah, exactly. Because then the 3 people would be happy, and the one guy would be dead. But like you can't really be sad when you're dead, so it's like not that big of a deal. But
sure,
obviously cannibalism is bad, but like. About outcomes. How do the ends and the means relate in utilitarianism?
So in this theory, the ends kind of refer to the outcomes of the results of the action, and the means are methods or actions taken to achieve those outcomes. So utilitarians, I'm going to call them, argue that if the end result creates the greatest happiness, then the means are used as justification, even if they might seem questionable on their own.
Okay, that's pretty good. So you're just saying that, like, for most situations, so a lot of things in history could probably be argued, say, okay, we're doing this for the majority rather than, like, oh, for these few people. So you're sacrificing these few people. So, I mean, I guess every law made ever is going to have people who agree with it, and it'll do good by, and it'll upset other people. This is an example. Anyway, so that was a really good explanation that you just came up with. What do you think, and what is generally considered the most important end from a utilitarianism perspective?
I'm going to say the most important end is maximizing overall happiness or well-being for utilitarianism. So it's what we often refer to as the greatest good for the greatest number.
Yeah, which is what we were talking about like a couple minutes ago. Yeah, which is like one of the main core belief. There's other little mini ones here and there that you could pick up, but that's like if you were gonna put it on a sticky note, that's what it would be. So let's talk about some strengths of it. What are some strengths of utilitarianism?
Sure, yeah. First, it's very pragmatic. It gives us a clear criterion. Yeah, criterion for decision making by focusing on outcomes. It is very helpful in policy and practical decision making. And it treats every individual's happiness equally, making it inherently democratic, I guess.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty good. It seems like on paper it would be very fair and everyone's happy, and that's one of the strengths that utilitarianism demonstrates, and that's what's usually brought up in politics a lot. Is this trait right here? But the problem is that there's also still some pretty big caveats. And what are some of those? Would you say, Jonathan?
There are, a lot of things that could go wrong with it, since it is consequential, meaning that it only focuses on the positive consequences of it. It does not focus on the intentions whatsoever. So that being said, it's not very justified, and some of the stuff that those means, ends would be considered very immoral if they led to greater overall benefit. Another challenge of that part of utilitarianism is the challenge of predicting all the outcomes accurately. I mean, no one can like see the future, and if you can't foresee all consequences, it's tough to truly know if you're maximizing happiness.
Yeah, that's true. So, like, an example that we covered in class was there's one lazy bones that's sitting on a couch. No one really loves them, and then there's also in another room there's 5 people who all need an organ, and the doctor's like, hey, I really need organs to save these 5 people. But why don't we just kill this one healthy dude and save these 5, perfectly good guys? And this one guy we're killing, he's not even that good of a person. So, like, it's just a waste to not kill him and cut him open and use his organs. But so from a utilitarianism perspective, that would seem like a good move because those 5 people get to live, and 5 is more than 1. So, like, that's one of the negatives that typically happen because this is not perfect. Okay, but anyway, enough with utilitarianism. Let's talk about deontology. How would you define it?
So deontology is another ethical theory that judges the morality of an action based on whether it follows established rules or duties, regardless of the outcome. It's all about doing what's right because it's right, not because of the consequence. So it focuses only on the intention, kind of. It focuses more of the means to that end.
Yes, very good. All right, we'll get right back to you after this ad break. All right, welcome back to the Bruce and John cast. So before the ad break, we were talking about the definition of deontology. So we're going to go into a little bit more depth with that, and we're going to start talking about probably the most important perspective from a deontologist. All right, John, take it away.
For deontologists, that's what we're going to call them, right? Deontologists?
Yeah,
all right.
deontologists. Hard word to say, I know.
All right, for deontologists, the most important thing is probably going to be adhering to moral duties and following... You said duties.
Okay, bud.
And following ethical rules in this paramount. By the way, not a sponsor, but it's a fire broadcasting app, bro. You should totally watch movies on that. So, carrying on from where I left off or whatever I was, the righteousness... What am I saying, bro?
Righteous?
Okay.
Rightness.
Sorry.
Rightness.
Yeah, the rightness.
Trying to say, right?
I'm trying to say rightness. Why I say righteousness?
Righteous dude.
The rightness or the wrongness of an action is so intrinsic. So even breaking a rule that might lead to a better overall outcome would still be considered wrong because it violates those rules.
So that's exactly right. So a good example of that might be like, oh, okay, there's a murderer who's breaking down the front door, and then you're standing in the front foyer of your house, and the murderer's like, where is everyone else? Now, technically, like, you would probably want to lie and say there's no one else home so he doesn't check and kill the rest of your, everyone else in the house. But from a deontological perspective, it would be wrong to lie, regardless of what you were trying to do. Even though you're trying to save someone else's life, you're still lying. And that's still wrong, and it's still wrong even though you're trying to save someone's life.
But I would tell them where they was regardless because I'm not trying to get shot.
Well, I know, but that's more of just like a what would you do thing. Yeah, sure. Nice grin, buddy. But yeah, so it's just what should be right doesn't have anything to do with, oh, I was trying to save someone or anything like that. So you got to keep that in mind moving forward. All right, so can you share with me, maybe give me a couple strengths of deontology?
One of the strengths is that it upholds individual rights by following strict moral rules. It ensures certain actions like harming innocent people, for say, or are never justified. Another strength is that it offers a clear framework for decision making, which can be very comforting in the complex situations.
Okay, very good. And what about the weaknesses?
It's definitely very rigidy. rigidity. I don't know, but deontology can sometimes be ignorant of the context of the situation, which leads to outcomes that seem morally counterintuitive if a strict rule is applied. Also, it is, in some scenarios, following a rule without exception that may cause more harm than good, which is a significant limitation.
So kind of like what I was saying with the murderer in the house thing and lying to him. Without further ado, let's move on to our third topic, which is going to be virtue ethics. So let's go ahead and talk about that. Well, John, you seem like you're on fire now. So how would you define it?
I would define it as focusing on the character and virtues of a person. Virtues meaning that characteristics, kind of. So they focus on the virtues of a person rather than strict rules or outcomes. So it's
like a good median, yeah, between utilitarianism.
Yeah,
that's how I think of it. At least
it's kind of like
it's not necessarily
being generous. Let's use that one. We don't want to be too generous, or else we'll lose everything.
You'll be like overzealous almost, if I'm using that word right, and then you're gonna lose all your things because you're giving it all away, and you have no regard for what you need yourself.
But you also shut up. Okay. You also don't want to you also don't want to just not give anything, because then people are gonna think you're a total jerk.
Yeah, exactly. Then you're gonna be like a hoarder. So I guess the whole point of virtue ethics is that there's a balance between each of those extremes or vices, and that's just kind of what it's all based off of. Is, don't be a jerk, don't be too kind, be somewhere in the middle. And it obviously it's beneficial because it doesn't follow those strict rules like from deontology, where you're bound by things that require context. It's kind of more on how you act, which is, I think, very noble of this one.
All right, so to hit.
Now here comes up a buzzword, right? Just down in your purple words. We're going to talk about the
eudaimonia.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the significance of eudaimonia in virtue ethics.
So eudaimonia is a central concept in virtue ethics. It's often translated as human flourishing or well-being, and it represents the ultimate goal of living a good life.
Yeah, kind of like I don't know, just it's kind of hard to find a word for it. It is the word for it, like
living the life.
Yeah, living the life.
Living la vida loca. Living the crazy life. No, I'm playing. But according to virtue ethicists, I'm going to use that word.
Ethic people.
Ethic people, yeah, sure.
Epic people.
Epic Games. Fortnite.
All right. Anyway, continue.
All right. Ethic people developing virtues leads to eudaimonia, which is a life that is truly fulfilling and flourishing.
Yeah, so you're basically talking about, like, you walk down the...
Like 6'7".
6'7". You walk down the road that's best for you, and that will, you're in between courteous and just a jerk. It's like in the parking lot, you let like a couple people in, but you don't let everyone through, because then you're like holding up yourself and everyone behind you. You let 5 people through, and yeah, so that's a really good explanation for it. That's how I think of it, at least. All right, we're gonna come back to you after this short ad break. All right, we're back for the third time, the Bruce and John cast, and we're gonna go pick up right back where we left off.
Second?
What?
Why's my name have to be second?
Because you're always second.
What if I'm better than you?
Then it would be the John and Bruce cast, and that's not the same ring as the Bruce and John cast.
B is better than B is closer to P than
But
J. You're not gonna say jodcast, but you can say bodcast.
Podcast.
Podcast, like a
Podcast. That'd be a good
bodybuilding,
weightlifting one. All right. Anyway, that's sidetracked. That's for another day. Anyway, all right. How does Aristotle differentiate between vice and virtue?
All right. Aristotle
His name's Aristotle.
Aristotle taught that virtue lies between two extremes, which is kind of what we were touching on last video. So deficiency and excess, those are the two extremes. So for every virtue, there's a corresponding vice of deficiency and vice of excess. So, for example, with courage, the deficiency would be cowardice, like running away, and the excess would be recklessness. Yeah. Virtue is basically balanced on the golden mean, like the perfect balance. So let's say someone is robbing a lady. You decide to size them up. You decide to size them up because, like, you're not an idiot, and see if you can take this dude and maybe get the lady out of it. Anyways, you size them up, right? And you're bigger than them. You're a little bit younger, a little bit quicker. And in that case, that would be perfect. Deficiency, on the other hand, let's say the man is smaller, and you see this happening, and you decide to run away. That would be cowardice, right? But excess would be, let's say the man is much taller than you, stronger than you, and possibly has a weapon. It would be reckless to run in knowing that he has a weapon and he's stronger and taller than you, and possibly younger, because then you yourself will be harmed, and that's
just like no one wins.
Yeah, he won, but
but you don't win.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, with being cowardly, you just like run away, right?
Yeah.
And like you get what he needed or whatever, and you also don't win. Yeah, it's very good. But let's take the virtue of courage as an example. What behaviors would you expect from someone showing the vice of deficiency, the vice of excess, and the true virtue in terms of courage?
If someone is deficient in courage, they might show signs of cowardice, avoiding necessary risks or challenges altogether. But if someone shows an excess of courage, then they might be recklessly brave, taking on let's say unwarranted risks, or just completely being being ignorant of the risks of this situation. Yeah. True virtue in courage is all about balance, facing challenges appropriately with rational judgment and a healthy dose of bravery.
Yeah, very good. All right, now moving on, we're going to go over some relationships between utilitarianism, deontology, and virtue ethics. Just kind of see where this all ties in with each other. So, anyway, what I would say is that they're all pretty normative ethical theories that aim to guide us in deciding what is right and wrong. Each provides a pretty good framework for ethical decision making, and it's really just to show people how to act. You know, it's a bunch of philosophers and thinky boys coming up with the way that people should go about their business. You know, and a way that makes everyone happy, and that's the pursuit of happiness. That's what we all want.
Man, you are just a yapper, aren't you, man?
I am today. But all that decision making and all that stuff that comes with everything you do can be controlled by these ethical theories. whether through outcomes, moral duties, or the development of characters.
Can't even go 10 seconds without talking. Anyways, how would they differ?
Well, I'd say that the main differences lie in the focuses. Utilitarianism is all about the consequences and maximizing the overall happiness, while deontology emphasizes following specific moral duties and rules regardless of their outcome. And virtue ethics, on the other hand, focuses on cultivating a good character and achieving a flourishing life through virtues. They all have their pros and cons, and it really just depends on the needs of the people, or at least a balance of all three. No one system is perfect.
Let's take a tackle in the crying baby dilemma. So here's a quick recap. Enemy soldiers have taken your village, and you have seen some fellow townspeople that are hiding in a cellar. You are hiding in the cellar with them, and you hear soldiers outside searching the house for valuables. Unfortunately for you, your baby starts crying, and if you remove your hands from the baby's mouth, his cry will alert the soldiers, potentially dooming everyone inside. The only one option is to remain silent and save the group, is to smother your child to death. Is this appropriate to do so?
It's a gut-wrenching scenario.
Absolutely. How would a utilitarian, bro, this is such a hard word to pronounce. How would a utilitarian, what he said, respond to this dilemma, and why?
Well, utilitarianism utilitarian.
See
I can't
what I
even
mean,
say.
bro?
Yeah, you're not wrong. Would focus on the outcome. If smothering the baby prevents the soldiers from discovering everyone and thereby saves many lives, then even though it's a tragic action and it's unspeakable, it's just horrible. No one should have to go through it. It might be considered morally acceptable because it maximizes the overall happiness of everyone in that basement, while minimizing the suffering of only to the little baby. Well, that being said, what do you think a deontological response would be?
From a deontological perspective, the action would be wrong regardless of the outcome. Killing an innocent child violates the fundamental moral duty, even if it means saving more lives. Breaking that rule is unacceptable because certain actions are intrinsically wrong.
Okay, very good. Now, how about virtue ethics?
Virtue ethics would focus on the character of the decision maker and the virtues they embody. So, a virtuous person values compassion, justice, and wisdom. And in this extreme scenario, the decision would be weighted against these virtues. Harming an innocent child contradicts virtues like care and kindness. So even though the situation is dire, a virtuous response would be to seek another solution, or at least deeply reflect on the moral character of the act.
It really highlights the complexities in ethical decision making and why there's so many issues with coming to a conclusion on the proper ethical construct to use. Let's construct a philosophical argument about the dilemma using some premises. Okay, here's one. Every life has inherent value and deserves protection. Second one would be actions that violate human fundamentals and moral duties, such as the duty not to kill innocents, can rot away the moral fabric of society. A third premise would be, let's say, ethical decision making must balance immediate outcomes with long-term moral integrity. Conclusively, just to wrap up all those three things, in extreme situations like a crying baby dilemma, actions that violate those core moral duties, such as like smothering an innocent child, should be avoided to uphold the inherent value of human life and preserve those social standards that society has on us. Jonathan?
That argument encapsulates the challenge perfectly. It shows that while outcomes are important, maintaining moral integrity is equally critical.
All right. Well, I think that's it. We've covered everything. That wraps up our episode of Ethics Uncovered. Ooh. Or the Bruce and John cast. Thank you, John, for the fantastic discussion, and thank you for our listeners for joining us and navigating the depths of utilitarianism, deontology, and virtue ethics. We hope you enjoyed this dive into ethics and that it sparked some deep thoughts.
Gracias todos personas. We cannot bring philosophical explorations. Adios.
Adios. Ah, la, 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 la.